back. I, if anybody saw me uh, before, um, someday I'll get an answer. I'm assuming that uh, Rumble gives me a one viewer uh, start because I'm on Rumble. I don't know. Um, Anywho, just wanted to. I've been working with this system of streaming and trying to figure out how to make it work. And boy, anyway, so I think I got it going. What would be great is to um, have somebody confirm that to me because I can't. I'm in a situation where I just don't have anybody that can, we sound like I'm friendless or anything, but I run with a different crowd of people, and they're not into this sort of stuff at all. And I just don't have anybody who can go, hey, yeah, man, I'll go log in just to make sure that you know, your system's working. So I have to rely on the generosity of somebody viewing or something else to test it. There's people. I don't want to get too deep into it, but there's people I could ask on Twitter. But it doesn't sound like a complaint train. But the fact of the matter is that half the time I type something on Twitter, nobody sees it because Twitter or whatever. Yeah. Number 10 on the list of things that still need to be worked out for my streaming is WD-40 for the Archie bunker chair that I've got here. This thing's older and dirt and it squeaks. We'll work on it. Sorry about that. Um, so just trying to find a way to entice people into hanging out. I've tried all the different angles. I've tried to be a big production thing and it didn't seem to work out very well. And it's a real drag. Just, I'm thinking, is it really necessary? I think I've said this before, so it may sound redundant, although maybe it won't because no one was listening. But it just seems like, what's why not just be straight up, turn the damn camera on, treat it like the visual telephone that it is, instead of trying to bullshit. Can I say bullshit on YouTube? Sorry, BS everything. Like, hey, we're in a studio or something, because all that stuff is you know CGI and all that. We all know we're sitting in some apartment or family room or basement anyway. I mean, why the facade? So this is an office, okay? And Jesus Christ. So the other thing is the attention span. Give me a second to say a word. I see people come in and they're gone so fast, and it's like, how can you deduce what is it this? Because I suppose I could understand that looking at this, but how can you possibly make a, a conclusion as to what's being discussed? I mean, it takes longer to line up a golf shot. What the hell? Um, anyway, but I do like the idea of just having a back and forth. And the funny thing is, I was living in an absolute, can't say bad words because we're naughty children, but I was living in a real rat trap of a place um, in the past. And I really wasn't inclined to clean it up, which really doesn't necessarily reflect on me all that well, but I was on my way out and of the place. And anyway, point is that when I when I had uh, the dinner I just ate laying next to my chair, and this red wooden screen, I had more people listening and talking to me than when I tried to make this graphic sign. And I just don't, all that graphic stuff doesn't seem to do anything to help. Um, it's weird. Anywho, so yeah, I spent most of the day on Twitter complaining that I couldn't get any reach on Twitter, which kind of seems pointless, but it's just so damn frustrating. Um, but in the realm of gaming, I am trying to get some people to um, have a look at what I'm putting together. So um, I did a. I'm looking at this like I've got screen sharing on, and then I just realized I don't. Let's see if I can get that to work. It doesn't matter. I'm going to. Do you really need to see the tweet I'm going to read? Anyway, I did a poll, and just to see if anybody was interested in products. The majority of people, some almost 50%, just under 50%, said they were looking for campaign settings. Okay, I have some of those, and I went about trying to present them to people on Twitter, which, like I just said earlier, it's like peeing into the wind. So I thought I'd open up this channel and its sisters on all sorts of places where people aren't watching, and maybe talk a little bit about them to people one on one. I I've got, well, you want to see some pictures? I think most of those I put out at one point or the other, but oh, I keep. Uh, all right, let's just do it. See, I think I can get this to work. Or not. Oh, wait, presentation. There we go. Okay. So, yes, I use AI imagery just to help market a thing because I can't pay $8 to $10 for a single picture just to use it in a tweet. You know, I'm not made of money. Give me a break. So I particularly like this one because it's Twitter in a room. Um. Anyway, I thought I had this one real handy and close. Apparently not. But this was one of them. This is the fantasy war game, kind of the mass battles portion of my RPG. Funny thing was with the poll that I took is that a lot of people go, we've got enough rule systems. I just want places to play, and then rule sets or new rule sets finished second, and everybody voiced an opinion that or wrote an opinion that they had enough rules, and then some 25 or 35% of the people went and voted. Maybe they weren't the same people, I know. But so I do have rules. Paracosmic Convergence is my RPG rule set. And Bella Magica Antiqua is the preliminary uh, title for the Mass Battle supplement that I'm working on putting together with it. So it's a kind of a chainmail homage. It's very light, though. When I say homage, it's got some basic elements in that there's a historical war game, a fantasy war game. There's a couple of different scales, but unlike chainmail, they're not confusingly strung together across multiple volumes of books. I like to think they're a little bit more clear. They're definitely not as complex, but they get the job done. You have a custom, I know, but it's coffee. The you have a custom system to make whatever units you want to put in. I didn't want to make something that required people to invest heavily in, some narrow system. I didn't want a Warhammer fantasy or anything like that. You can bring whatever miniatures you got to your table and use my rules to have fun with them. You can customize your armies as you see fit. It's up to you whether you want to be the stringent, you can only have the weapons the models are carrying thing, like from 40K and stuff. So that's totally up to you. But um, if you don't play that way, you can customize them as you want. There's a list of additions. There's different types of weapons, different types of attacks, whatever. So instead of burdening you with tons of reference material and stat. Now, some people seem to like this stuff, but I look at it this way. I don't want to have to be thumbing through, okay, well, what's the stats for a bugbear? What if you're never going to use a bugbear? What if it's just not the thing you're going to see on your fantasy battlefields? Okay, then it's not there. But what if that one time it ends up being something? All right, now you have a custom system where you can go, okay, well, what does a bugbear have? A couple of claw attacks or whatever it is, and this, that, and the other thing. All right, those are all listed there. Okay, how big is a bugbear? Well, mine are about this big. Okay, that's there. And it has all those features in points. So just by finding the features of the monster or a group of soldiers, whatever it is, on the list of options, there's a point value for each. So you can total, and yes, you have to add up numbers. Oh my God. Any game with a point system requires addition and subtraction. You're going to be okay. I try not to get nasty, but I don't think it's that nasty, but some of these complaints, about math. And the funny thing is when I say, okay, well, I could computerize it for you. Oh, no, I'm not bringing a computer to the table. I don't want, if it's too complicated, and you got to, but it's not that big of a deal. You have a point system. Very basic, very simple. You're not adding 4 digits to 4 digits. They're single digit things, Oh, you want a long sword instead of a short sword for your, infantry? Okay. +2 or whatever. That's how many points that unit costs. And that's how you balance the fight. We're going to play, it's like 40K or anything, those types of things. So real basic stuff. Real simple mechanics, just something you can throw a battle together if it comes up in your RPG, scenario or campaign without having to, dive into the world of wargaming, neck deep in order to achieve it, like you used to have to with things like battle system and something like that. I love that stuff. I'm a big war gamer, so I loved a battle system. But if you just wanted to quickly portray some epic battle, having to tackle that thing seemed like a big chunk to bite off just for a couple of scenes. So this thing is real simple and will allow you to play an epic battle without breaking your noggin. Feel free to I see people coming in and out. God, I wish I knew why. But if you're going to spend any time in here, feel free to talk. Let's have a back and forth. My goodness. Just love to hear from people. Anyway, so, but man, so that was one of the things I'm working on. Briefly, there was what I thought was going to be an interesting conversation, and then it just faded away about realism and playability. Rob Coons had putting, the hell am I doing? Put out an article on his website where he discusses realism versus playability and stuff like that. I found that very interesting, and I wanted to see what people's uh, definitions of realism is, whether you like it or not, whether you think it. It's not about, just interested to see what you consider that, and that requires uh, audience participation. Audience participation requires an audience. I don't really have one, so much for that conversation. What else came up? Oh, I get caught in these cyclical things. I'm really good. I can't come up with idea. Well, I shouldn't say it that way. Conversation is something I'm better at reacting to. In that, I'm not a good initiator of it. But bring something up, and then I can go back and forth. So, otherwise, I tend to recycle the conversations or discussions I've already had. One of the things that I brought up for people to read and hopefully interact and discuss with if they ever get to see it. I know I keep dropping the same bitter reference to not being able to be seen. Sorry, but it is frustrating to spend 2 hours because it's just frustrating. But I talk about credentialism, and I don't know if people whom are published authors might have thought, well, maybe he's talking about me because I didn't drop any names. I didn't drop any names because I didn't want to start any drama. I didn't, so I left it kind of vague, but people always advise me, don't pick a fight with somebody. That's bad form. Don't call people out, blah, blah, blah. So I don't. But that vagary leaves everybody thinking, is he talking about me? Because I'm a published author. So, but what I did is I brought up an example of somebody who's been published being, all of a sudden he's showing up on everybody's streams, and it's your business who you put on your stream. Don't give me this childish thing that I'm jealous or anything like that. All I'm saying is that why is he already all of a sudden being asked? Well, he's an author. Okay. Technically the guy who made Jughead Comics is an author too. No offense. So, but now that he's an author, all of a sudden he's getting all this credulity. And guy makes a really asinine remark. And I just thought it was a shitty thing to say and stupid. And, but somehow everybody wants to listen to his opinion because he's published. Well, again, there's a lot of crap. His books aren't that. I'm not saying anything that's, in fact, I'm just saying that just because you've published something doesn't, they publish Playboy too. Published it, So credentialism is, when you synthesize it into a real basic thing or way of explaining it, it's an argument from authority. And that's on the list of logical fallacies that are, bad form, a faux pas, if you will, in debate and discussion. So that's pretty much what I was getting at with the credentialism. And the reason I brought that up is because I was gearing up for something that never happened, and that was going to be a large, I thought, a large-scale discussion about realism versus playability, which in the past, and when I say past, I mean decades ago, I had had conversations over that where people lost their, wow. I've seen some really weird stuff. So I knew it could get ugly. A lot of people, and just to preempt obnoxious detours in pseudo debate, I wanted to bring up the credentialism thing because I've already had people go, "You can't argue that. Gary said that." The hell I can. If it's a subjective opinion or statement, I can argue it to, that's not definitive. Well, he wrote the book. I don't give a shit. He wrote a an opinion in a book. That doesn't canonize that opinion as all of a sudden being fact. So uh, that's kind of what I was setting up with that. But further than that, I want to get people's ideas, as I said earlier, about realism. Um, but getting ironically, you get on social media, which is supposed to be about social communication, you get virtually none. So I never got to hear anybody's definition, and it kind of faded away. But I'd like to say that because um, I've always found that whole discussion odd and somewhat erroneous by a lot of people. Playing. I'm eventually going to read what Rob wrote on the issue, but I don't have it right now. But I wanted to talk about that sort of thing. I I've gotten to the point in life where I'm just too old and tired to argue a lot. I thought that maybe if this when this came up and somebody like Mr. Kuntz was involved, people would maintain a little bit more decorum in the discussion, and it might be enlightening and might further people's thoughts or give them a new perspective, as opposed to breaking down into the flame war and ugliness that I've seen it do in the past. So that's what excited me about it. But in general, as far as rules and realism or complexity or whatever that I give. I hear it so much about everything. I've moved on to what they call free creek spiel. While I do have rules and I'm selling rule sets, and I think you'll like them because they're light and accessible and cheap. As far as where I want to play, I'd love just to play in the free creek spiel realm because it, I've gotten games where I open up the rules and go, "Whoa, this seems like it's almost going to be a chore to get through," and I'm not into that either. Um, but the biggest chore I've ever had is trying to tell people that every rule book isn't that, even though that it often is. You hear it about damn near everything in gaming, and it just gets it. It's exhausting to have that constant argument. So it's like, okay, if you do the free Kriegspiel thing, you've essentially eliminated rules from the equation. And now you're sitting down with a group, and you're it. I've heard the term used: rulings, not rules, and that's what it is. If you have somebody as a GM or DM or whatever acronym you want to apply, judge or whatever, uh, that you feel confident is able to arbitrate properly and even handedly. You don't need to learn rules. You can defer authority to the individual or team of that's doing the judging, GMing, or whatever, and just play the game out. Just role play as you want, and it alleviates you of this, you know, overhead of having to consume, memorize, and understand. Not that you're lacking in comprehension, but sometimes the stuff isn't clear. That kind of that's all gone. Hey, you want to play a fantasy dungeon crawl? All right, just I want to be a guy that big guy that carries a sword, or I want to be an old guy with a tippy hat or whatever and a wand. All right, that's all we need. Everything could just go from there. And this is what I want to do. I mean, is it completely devoid of guideline? Of course not. There's probably a spell book or something like that. A list of weapons that you can choose from or buy or something like that. It's not, you know, totally unstructured, but the whole, two hit armor class 0 or something like that is eliminated, and you just go, I want to go kill that orc over there with my kick ass sword. Okay, and the GM gives you an explanation as to what occurs once you make your decision based on their assessment of it. They have to be experienced. They have to have some background in the material that's being played out so that they can make that kind of judgment. And of course, you have to have the faith in it. It does it if there isn't a person at the table GMing that you have confidence in, then it'll never work because you'll always question his or her, I should say, decision making. So that's required. But if you can get over that hurdle, then you can just go, okay, I'm good with it. Doesn't mean that there can't be some dice rolling or something like that. There can be, but and there will be when I do it. But it just everything goes away. So, but it's interesting. I Psychology is odd. People say, everything's too complicated. I wish they would simplify things. Okay, here's the Altus. No, that's not really what I want either. What? Okay, you can't. Like I had a lot of people in the '80s, the late '80s, go, stuff is all this math in these games. And there was some more of it than there is now. And I go, hey, solar calculators exist. Well, if it's so complicated, I need a calculator. But no, you just got your problem solved. You bought the game, you want to play the game, but the game is math intensive and that bugs you. Solar calculator. Problem solved. Now you can play the game. What are you going to do? Just put it on a shelf and say, well, that one sucked. I suppose you could, but now you sent $40 on fire and you never get to play it. Why not use the solution, just so you can get some money's worth out of the thing? I don't know. Just always seemed like a. But anyway, that's kind of where I'm at with the rule type of thing. Then there was people that were talking about campaign settings. I've got a lot of those. I don't. Here's the thing. What are you really looking for? I see people saying this. And a lot of times when they say that, they go, well, I don't really want the whole thing. I don't want to go buy your rule system. I just like campaign settings because I tear things out of them and put them into a place I want. Okay, fine. But wouldn't it be better to have the information you're looking for put in, what they call a splat book then? Okay, to me, if you're going to go and say, I want a campaign that can't, like let's say it's Dragonlance. I don't think that's the kind of thing people are tearing pieces out of for other things, but just an example. It's very vast. There's a lot to it. I just want to buy it for the NPCs. That's like I want to buy the 5 disc set just so I can hear track 7 on disc 3. Surely there's a single, just for efficiency and economic. So wouldn't the splat book be the better way to do it? I don't know, but some people go, nope, I want the whole campaign, but I'm never going to play the whole thing. I'm just going to steal stuff from it. I don't care if you buy the book; you can do whatever you want with it. So I've got those. I have a couple of different kind of continental one's almost its own planet type of fantasy setting. There's one where I'm sure it's not even all that original, and I don't care. I just wanted to do it myself. Was what if every myth was real? Like Sasquatch and Nessie from Scotland and Chupacabra and all the gods from all the civilizations, like American gods, where they're all kind of real and manifest. That too. Magic's real, but it's very rare. There isn't everybody dressed like Jimmy Page in 1973 with the stars on his, the wizards aren't a dime a dozen like some other ones. But yeah, if you search hard enough, somebody might be able to do something like that. So I have one of those. And that's really all it is. It's Earth, where like pagan gods are real, Roman gods are real, Greek gods are real, unicorns. That's it. Other than that, it's Earth, ancient Earth. So just wanted to have that. I don't know that that's something that I mean, if you want to buy it, great. Um, but people are probably figuring, well, I can do that myself. I don't know. Okay. I guess some of it's just convenience. Could you do it yourself? Sure. Would you want to spend the time? No. Maybe you'd spend $10 and hey, this guy's already done it. And then I can take it and modify it as I want. Um, the other one is one of the other ones is a kind of a fantasy realm that I just made up over time. Where I went into a box when I was moving from earlier mentioned, rat trap apartment, and found that I had preserved notes and scribblings and gaming material used from decades in the past, and they were all in a couple of banker boxes, including all these different little sections of worlds that I had done for my own personal uh, adventures that I played with people as a youth. So I just took them and stitched them all together into this world. Um, a third one that I have is an, a, I think this is a great idea. I hear some people go cute, and I don't know if cute is really means good or not. But I have my neighborhood, one of my childhood neighborhoods, and I just took everything and I made it all fantasy realm. So, uh, and that's another fantasy world, and it's got a political intrigue and it borders and stuff like that. It's the golf course that I lived across the street from is this manor that's like a private community of very rich, snobby people that have their own private army. Because we used to sneak on the golf course late at night and stuff, and there was these security people that would drive up in their golf carts and stuff like that. So I've turned the golf carts into roving patrols on horseback and stuff like that. So uh, there there was a series of willow trees. There, I don't know why they weren't torn down. Unfortunately, a lot of the trees in the area I lived in were torn down to make room for the houses we lived in and all that. I don't know if they were too big at the time to tear down or whatever, but there was about 7 of them, and they were in this almost like a straight line across maybe a mile, and they kind of served as landmarks because they stood out above everything else. And the one there's one particular one in a swamp that was 2 or 3 times bigger than everything else. So anyway, they play this significant uh, role in the world. They're sacred. They're used as places where people can trade. It's like a bazaar. So just little things like that I put together to make this world, and then I attach that world to every other imaginary play thought that I could remember having as a kid. Sometimes we played guns. Okay. If you're not from America, you might disapprove, whatever. But that would be a more modern ish, maybe at least 80s kind of, A team, war movie kind of world where the battles are going on. There was, sci-fi ish stuff where I just kind of took a mixture of the things that were going on, things being TV shows, Buck Rogers, Space 1999, Battlestar Galactica, the original stuff like that, and kind of melded it together into this mix of sci-fi. So anyway, there's little portholes that lead to these different imaginary worlds. They're all connected like a network. So that's one campaign world. I have a sci-fi. I must be boring the hell out of people. I keep seeing one YouTube gets one viewer and then it goes zero. Then it gets one, then it goes zero. I've seen this done before. I don't know if it's new people coming and going, if it's a revolving door because they're bored. Some people say they don't stick around because they don't see any background or whatever. I don't know. I sure, next time I'm going to open one of these up, I'm going to put in the description. Tell me why the hell you're leaving so fast. Um, most people probably won't, but anyway, I got this sci-fi one. Um, it was an idea for, well, we wrote me and a friend at the time wrote a novel, sci-fi novel, manuscript at best. We really break it down. But anyway, um, we had this pie in the sky idea of writing a 3-volume novel set. It seemed like a great idea until you until you started thinking, "Hey, man, I got to write all this shit in." So, but we did put a lot of time into it before we realized, you know, you have to keep going with making money and responsibilities to the point where But hey, but we got a lot uh, hashed out. So I took all those notes and things and created a kind of RPG, sci-fi dystopia thing. And a lot of people go, well, that's being done to death. Fair enough. And this one's maybe 10 years old. And had we had the time and to be fair, the motivation, because we didn't, it's not real proud to say it, but it's true. Maybe it would have been a different deal if we could have turned it into something at the time. But for balance, there's a lot of things you wish you had time to do that you can't do because you got to get up in the morning and earn a paycheck. So I turned it into an RPG world just to be able to express it in some medium. Uh, and those are all going to be up for sale. And so people that were saying, "Hey, I really want new campaigns," I think I just listed 4, 5. So there's that. I got a city, just kind of like not like exactly like Lankmar, but is this city realm that you can, you know, dump into anything you want. And another thing that people were asking for, not in great numbers, but um, I happen to like the idea of making it anyway, so it doesn't matter, is a big book of just random generator tables that are not what do they call it, system agnostic. Yeah, so I'll be making that up anyway. Let's see. You got a post World War II war game, handles anything from 1948 on. Uh, Again, it's low overhead as far as having to learn a lot of rules. It's meant to be a beginner's approachable, both economically and mentally approachable. I'd love to get rich doing this. I mean, but is that going to happen? No. But because, and again, I don't want to sound like I was some underprivileged pauper because that wasn't the case. But I wasn't buying everything off the shelf when I was a kid either. I just didn't have that kind of money. And a lot of times I had to, like I could buy, a battalion of micro armor. I bought a battalion of micro armor, collected it. Okay. And then the money ran out. And I need scenery and an enemy to shoot at. That didn't have the money. So instead of woodland scenics or GHQ, Hexmaker terrain or anything like that, I I ended up having to use construction paper and outdoor carpeting and Lincoln log buildings and shit like that because I just ran out of money. So I knew how it is to just. I wish I could keep up with the Joneses and all that sort of stuff. So I wanted to present things that were not cheaply made, but I didn't want to give people this experience. I remember going in to one of the first Games Workshop stores, at least the first ones that I'd seen. It was in Gurnee, Illinois. Hey man, everybody's. This is a big fad. I can't get people to play micro. This is me talking to the salesman. They had like a salesman on the floor. And I said, nobody wants to play my Micro Armor games anymore. I can't get anybody to play Flight Leader. Everybody's talking about this game. What's it? Tell me about it. Show me. And the guy's like, here, I'll hook you up. And he went through and explained it all. And he goes, here, just take it. You don't have to pay for it, but let's just put it all out on the table so you can see. And he hands me the 2nd edition 40K. I mean, I knew about Rogues Trader, but this is, now there's people playing tournaments and stuff that I didn't know about. So they hand me a 2nd edition 40K, the big box. Then they put some paints on it. Then they put the, codex on it. And then it just kept piling up. That I was sitting there holding this and it was like $180 or something like that. And I'm like, Jesus, come on. And this is just to walk through the door. And I didn't have the cash flow for that. So I wanted the people to go, man, I wish I could play that, but I just can't. The amount of money that I have to play with is thinner than, that's why I made what I made. But don't equate that with poor quality. There's ways to keep costs low. The way to do, first thing to do is when I was a little bit younger, the rules that I were buying, like I would buy a World War II set of Micro Armor. And these days, if you buy like World War II miniatures, maybe bolt action, here's your main rules. Here's the rules for the American this or that, or Flames of War, which is just like the 40, World War II 40K. Here's the 1st Division. Here's the 3rd Division. They're all different, like factions of or chapters of Space Marines. The American 2nd Armored is different than the American 1st Armored and all that stuff. $40 a book. It just keeps splitting it up as much as you can, make more money that way, sure. And some people like that, and that's fine if you do. But I like here's a $4.50 pamphlet with rules and stats on everything ever made for the Second World War. Here's all the tanks, here's all the infantry, here's all the weapons, here's their scores. As far as units and all that, you want to go find out how to do that, go to the library and get a book about camo, or go to the hobby shop that sells models down the street from the gaming store and buy one of those instead of, this library of books that all cost a lot of money to have. And so that's how I handled keeping the costs down and not giving you something that's made out of, chintzy cardboard or whatever. Just a different approach to design. So, I've been on 45 minutes. About 10 minutes of that was screwing around trying to get this thing to work. So I've been, a little over half an hour. I haven't had anybody say anything. That's a disappointment. I sure hope that I can get people to stick around and talk. The thing is that I understand people go, well, you're a new guy and that's, it takes a while. But 2 years ago, I was doing this and I would get at least 10 or 15 people to come in, a week, not a session. But I was having conversations with a handful of people on a fairly regular basis just by going live. And now, nothing. Am I really that terse? Or that uninterested? I don't, what the hell's going on? Anyway, sure love to have a conversation. Maybe next time. Try again. This is not the right button to push. There we go.